Welcome back to the webcast and the first episode up for the NFL where Ben and I do our predictions. Doug isn't able to join us today, but we got a great guest in Ben, so let's go! All right, welcome back to the webcast, All Sports One Web, where today we are giving the webcast predictions for the upcoming NFL season. Doug couldn't make it today, but I am delighted to introduce our second guest co-hosting today's episode, and that is Ben. Ben, how are we doing today? 2 days away from the start of the season. Sunday, the Titans will kick off, but how are we doing? Oh, I muted you. I'm sorry. Let me redo that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're super excited. Obviously, season kicks off here on Thursday. Titans kick off on Sunday. So it took a while, but we're here. I'm pumped.
We are here. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if you're part of any fantasy leagues, but we just had our fantasy draft this past weekend, getting me even more pumped up for the NFL season. And so on today's episode, Ben and I are going to go through each of the divisions, and we are going to give you our contenders for each division and eventually pick who we think is going to win every division. And then when we get closer to the end of the season and the playoffs kind of start sorting themselves out, we are going to dive in and do our Super Bowl picks. So we are hopeful that Ben will be able to join us throughout the season this year. So stay tuned for that. I guess we can just dive in here. So let me share my screen for our picks. All right, so here we go. Okay, so here we have 3 categories. We're going to either rank them in contenders or they don't have a chance for this year. And then in the second round, we're going to move all of our contenders up to winning their divisions, picking a division winner for each of the 8 divisions. And now just to do a quick recap of the NFL. So there are 8 divisions, 4 teams in each division, and each division winner is going to advance to the playoffs. And then you will have an additional 6 wildcard teams that will join the playoffs. We'll go over that structure later. Everything like that. Right now, we are just going to be picking the division winners in the 17-game season. And I will give the floor to you for our first team here, the Tennessee Titans, 2-time AFC South champions, top seed in last year's playoffs, going out to the Cincinnati Bengals, the winners of the AFC in the end. Are you excited for this year? Do you think you're going to make it 3 for 3? In the AFC South?
Well, I might be a little bit biased, but I think we will. Like you said, 2-time AFC South champions. I think a lot of folks out there are kind of writing the Titans off a little bit. The Colts are kind of the favorable pick in the AFC South. They've been
Matty Ice.
That's right. They've been a quote unquote quarterback away for the last couple of years. Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and now Matty Ice, like you said. So I definitely think he's an upgrade. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's going to be nice. But as far as the Titans go, I mean, a lot of news about the A.J. Brown, missing him this year after that big trade. And the way the season ended, that was a tough one against the Bengals. But I think, one of the most hurt teams last year. Still, we're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Still got a lot of juice left in the tank, I think. Mike Vrabel, coach of the year, I still think is a heck of a head coach, and we'll have these guys ready to go. So with the Titans, I'm definitely putting them in the contenders category for sure.
All right. Well, I also want to get your opinion on last year as well, with Derrick Henry kind of having that foot injury, especially going into that playoff game. How was your opinion on him getting the workload that he did, and if he was fully healthy, do you think that would have made a huge difference in that game against the Bengals?
That's a good question. I think I don't think he was healthy. I think he was probably at about 70% would be my best guess.
Mm.
I don't think it would have made a difference, though, to be quite honest. Devontae Freeman last year was kind of doing what he needed to do and taking over for Henry. And I don't think the running game was an issue. I think at the end it was really some turnovers, some bad situations that really cost us that game. Defense came to play, all this stuff. So I don't think it was necessarily on Henry that we lost that game. And if he's at 100%, great. Maybe that adds on. I guess a few more yards to the running game, but overall, I don't think it would have made the biggest difference. But I got to say, I think he's been playing since he was probably playing Pee Wee football, and this is probably the biggest break he's had. With being injured and being out the last half of the season. So first kind of big injury of his career, but I also think at the same time it could end up being a blessing to get that time off.
I compare that to Anthony Davis for the Lakers. The guy who gets hurt seems like every single season, even going back to when he was on the Pelicans and everything. And when the Lakers were able to take that break before the bubble kicked back up in Orlando, he was actually able to get healthy enough and then only have a short season, basically, as it was the end of the season into the playoffs. And able to actually get form and ride that himself out. So Derrick Henry, like you mentioned, coming off of an injury, now having a little bit longer of a break before going into this season, but it is a 17-game season. Do you feel like now at 28 years old that he's not going to be able to make it the length of the season and then carry on into the playoffs, especially with the loss of A.J. Brown from an offensive standpoint?
Well, I feel like traditionally, like with a running back, especially at that 28, 29-year age, a lot of them start to you see that wear and tear. I think everybody says, Derrick Henry's built different, if you will, but I think age catches up to everybody. Sure. I think I always look back at I know when Adrian Peterson, I think, tore his ACL, he came back and had a career year the next year. And if I remember correctly, I feel like it was around the same age when he did that. Maybe even later, but obviously there's concern over the fact that he, this is his first big injury, and again, usually the time when running backs slow down a little bit, but I don't know, that guy's he's just different. I mean, he's a freak in nature. I think if anyone can power through a 17-game season, especially with his workload, it's definitely him. I think the addition of Hassan Haskins too this year in the draft was pretty big. I think
what a 1-2 punch that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And what a great guy to learn behind. Oh, exactly. Just one after the other, just going to be wearing down the defense. A defense that they might not have too much of a problem with and either contending with offense is Houston. Davis Mills looks like the starter for them this season. 11 games last year, 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 5 fumbles. I am going to take them next, and I just do not see them having any chance in the division with, Tennessee and the Colts, and a revival maybe for Jacksonville. What are your thoughts on that one?
I'm right there with you. I think they are unfortunately in the cellar of the AFC South. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think of the Texans. I mean, they seem to, after they lost to Sean Watson, obviously, they traded away a bunch of picks. I think Bill O'Brien did a number as a head coach / GM on trading away some of those players.
Terrible. Yeah, making the Browns look good down there, man. Jeez,
no kidding. So I mean, I think it's tough sledding for the Texans. Davis Mills is interesting. The long neck. Maybe it's something about that, but I don't know. He seems to. I don't think anyone saw anything out of him, coming out of that draft. I don't think he was terrible last year, to be honest with you. I mean, he had some decent games, couple against the Titans as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, they don't have the pieces. They don't have the firepower to compete, I don't think, in the AFC South.
One team that might have the firepower with all of this hype, third quarterback in 3 years, Matt Ryan and Nick Foles kind of backing him up as well. They went 9-8 last year with Carson Wentz, and now adding Matt Ryan to it. You think that maybe they could take another step forward? Are they going to be able to catch Tennessee, in your opinion, and be a contender, or do you feel like they won't have a chance, especially with Jonathan Taylor getting another year under his belt?
Yeah, I mean, as much as it pains me to say, I mean, the Colts are a good team. They're definitely a contender. Jonathan Taylor is, absolute stud. I think Matt Ryan is, while I don't think that he's gonna suddenly set the world on fire with how old he is, I think he's probably the most stable quarterback they've had in the past, probably 3 or 4 years. So I think it's going to bring a lot of stability to that position, a lot of leadership. Michael Pittman, the receiver, I think is also a stud. I think he's a little bit undervalued in the league. He's going to probably have a pretty big year. They had the additions of Stephon Gilmore as well, kind of sure enough that
Huge.
secondary, which is huge. Darius Leonard, although I guess he's not even going by Darius Leonard anymore. He's I forget what his now first name is, but he's a stud.
Oh, he changed his name? I didn't even know that.
I think I think Darius was his middle name, and he's now going by his first name, or vice versa on that. I can't remember.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He did change his name, and so he's a key. I mean, he's amazing, and you got the Forrest Buckner down there on the line as well. So I think that defense is always pretty solid. Their O line is very good as well. I think they are probably having the same question marks around the league that the Titans have, which is probably a true lack of depth at receiver. Maybe a decent, like I said, Michael Pittman is really pretty good. But outside of that, I don't see a whole lot of, guys that can, scare a defense and keep the coordinators up at night. So definitely a contender. They got a loaded roster. I think there's definitely some holes there, but they'll be contenders with the Titans for sure in the AFC South.
All right. Team that I think is one of the most interesting to watch this upcoming season is Jacksonville. Obviously, the whole storyline with Urban Meyer disaster last year. Now they bring in Doug Peterson. They got Etienne finally healthy. He's going to hopefully be able to stay healthy for the whole year. You got Trevor Lawrence going into another year. Trayvon Walker as their first overall pick from the draft, linebacker out of Georgia. I don't think that they are experienced and or have the quality. Again, probably another depth at wide receiver issue. Paying so much money for all of their wide receivers that aren't maybe even better than the one they lost in DJ Chark. So I think that they could improve this year from last year, but I just don't see them contending with the likes of Indianapolis and Tennessee. What are your thoughts on Jacksonville in the division this year?
Yeah, I think they still got about probably a year. I think before they're true contenders. They spent a lot of money in free agency. I think they had a relatively decent draft. I think Trevor Lawrence last year wasn't the best year for him, but as a rookie, I mean, that's tough. He didn't have a lot going for him, and the whole Urban Meyer situation didn't help either.
No,
I think, like I said, they spent a lot of money. They've got some players for sure. They got some skill out there. I think Travis Etienne, the running back, I think is going to be pretty solid. Spent a lot of money for Christian Kirk. I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Reset the receiver market on that one.
Oh, for sure.
Probably could have got away with paying him a little bit less, or maybe spending that money on a different guy. But some questions.
Two guys. They could have spent that money on two guys.
Yes, they could have. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I think they're probably a year or two away from being true contenders, but honestly, a step in the right direction and certainly better than Houston.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. There are our first round of picks. We got the Titans and the Colts as contenders for the AFC South. We're going to go through all of the divisions, give our contenders, and then from there move on to who we think is going to win the division. So now we're going to move on over to one of the always fascinating divisions for me, and that is the AFC North. We got the defending AFC champs in the Bengals. We got the Lamar Jackson contract situation with Baltimore. He's representing himself, entering the season without a contract on the end of his, $9 million rookie deal. You got the Steelers no longer have Big Ben. Looks like they're going to move forward with Mitch Trubisky. And then the Browns with how could you not see the Browns offseason this year, getting rid of Baker Mayfield in the fashion that they did, bringing in Deshaun Watson, who got suspended for 6 games. And then it was 11 games. Jacoby Brissett will be leading the line there for the Browns. So I'm going to start off with you and give me your opinion. Are the Bengals, defending AFC champs, going to have a regression this year? And are they contenders in the AFC North?
Yeah, so I guess to answer the second question first, I think a slight regression is coming, but very, very slight. Not by a lot. I think with the Bengals is that their offense is pretty elite. I mean, those weapons there. The one concern there is the offensive line, which they've been trying to build for several years now. I don't think it's quite there, but um, Joe Burrow is a different breed. That guy's something special. I watched him get sacked 9 times in Tennessee, and
Incredible, over
completely
and over.
unfazed.
Yeah.
Unfazed, never flinched once. Didn't disrupt him, didn't rattle him at all. So I think that guy's different. What they have on the outside, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, those guys are special. Joe Mixon in the backfield. I mean, they've got weapons all over the place. It's definitely still questions at O-line. I think that's still going to be a problem this year, which is why I do see a slight regression. That defense, I think, is still young. I think they kept Jesse Bates around, that's good. I mean, that's good to keep a key piece like that. Still young, Trey Hendrickson, definitely a stud, underrated in the league for sure. Pretty sure he's had some of the top 5 sack numbers the last few years too, and he doesn't get talked about a whole lot. So definitely some underrated players out there. Defense young, but I think has some potential. The offense is elite, so a slight regression, but I still believe in the Bengals.
Yeah, don't forget about Sam Hubbard, OSU alum. Just watched a commercial here in Cincinnati. He was part of this Miller Lite commercial where he goes to the stadium and he grabs some dirt from the stadium and explains how they are moving some of the dirt from the stadium to the wheat fields so that all the drinkers in Cincinnati will be part of the passion of the Bengals in every drink that they get. So very interesting commercial I just saw the other day, but great talent for the Bengals.
Adam, but you've probably seen the change in the kind of the way that people view the Bengals in Cincinnati has flipped on its head over the last year. I mean, that place is it's crazy now.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Burrow has just brought all of that swag and coolness, like you mentioned, and he just gives you that sense of confidence that no matter what's happening, that he's going to push through it and take them, keep them up there. The interesting thing about the division last year for me was the fact that the Bengals finished 10-7, topped the division, and the Ravens finished bottom of the division at 8-9. You talk about a 2-game swing, especially when you look at Lamar Jackson being injured. The Ravens lost their last 6 games. They pick up 2 out of 6, which you would expect anyone to do with Lamar Jackson, and they top this division. Yes, they lost Hollywood Brown, which I think is huge, but the Ravens, some just do not. I don't know when the last time they had a star receiver stay with them for more than 3 years. They always bring in some, hardy veteran to keep them going, focus in on that defense that they've retooled in this offseason. They're still going to be great if they can gel well together. Lamar Jackson playing in a contract year, always dangerous, but I feel like it could go one or two ways where he's just going to play lights out, especially if J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy. Always great in the running game when they have great running backs that can be a dual threat. You can pitch it down to them, or you can just run them like the bowling ball that J.K. Dobbins is. And so for me, I'm going to put the Ravens also as contenders for the AFC North this year. The team that I'm intrigued to get your opinion on this year is actually the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lose Big Ben, and are going to be starting Mitch Trubisky. You got TJ Watt coming off a 22.5 sack season. Absolutely incredible last year. They still did well, but I mean, finishing 9-7-1 with a 22.5 sack season leading your defense isn't what you would want, especially when you are going from a Hall of Fame quarterback, even though he was playing on one leg, to Mitch Trubisky. So do you think that they can go from that 9-7-1 and catch the Bengals and the Ravens for this upcoming season and be a contender, or do you not give them a chance this year?
I mean, I feel like with the Steelers, I mean, I don't think Mike Tomlin's had a losing season in his career with Pittsburgh. So I don't think they're ever going to be horrible, but in that division, I just don't see it. I mean, Big Ben, you lose Big Ben, but I mean, what he did last year, I don't think was any really kind of impressive. I mean, he definitely was on his last leg. I think he was, about ready to hang it up and replace him with Mitch Trubisky as a starter. We saw what he did in Chicago. I don't know that he's the answer. I know Kenny Pickett had a pretty solid offseason. So I'm guessing he takes over pretty soon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Trubisky probably, we'll see, 5-6 weeks, honestly, but I see Kenny Pickett kind of stepping in pretty early there. Like you said, TJ Watt is a stud. I think that defense always comes to play. That's just what Pittsburgh's known for. But I guess, Deontay Johnson went down. I don't know how long he's going to be out, if at all. I think, they still got Chase Claypool, who's had an interesting rookie season, but last year just didn't exactly follow it up with anything too special. So I think, they've definitely got some potential. I think Najee Harris and the backfield is an underrated rookie, or not rookie, but a running back as well. He's kind of got that mean stiff arm, kind of like Derrick Henry. So it must just be that Alabama thing. But
honestly, one after the other. How to play football at Alabama. Stiff arm everyone.
So, I don't think they'll be terrible. I don't think Pittsburgh, at least with Tomlin there, is ever going to be quote unquote terrible. But in this division, no. I think that's a last place team, I think.
Yeah. Oh, last place. Okay, so that's interesting. That brings us into the Browns here, who will be without their $1 million quarterback, I guess, this year, but $265 million guaranteed for Deshaun Watson. Once he comes back, I believe it's 11 game suspension, but I don't think he's allowed to play week 12, or they're making sure he plays back week 13. And conveniently, I think that's against the Houston Texans, so I don't know what the NFL is doing there, but whatever. Can they survive, in your opinion, 11 weeks with Jacoby Brissett? Especially in this kind of division with the talent in the AFC overall. Do you think after that suspension, they can be in a position where Deshaun Watson can click back in and kind of take him the rest of the way, maybe get a wild card spot, or even make them contenders in this division?
I mean, I think they can still. I don't know. Jacoby Brissett is kind of like, in my opinion, one of, if not the best backup quarterback situation you can have in the NFL. I mean, he did what he did with the Colts when he took over there, when Andrew Luck went down, I think was pretty impressive. You could do a lot worse as far as quarterbacks go. He may not even be the worst starting 32 when he's playing for the Browns. So
that's a very interesting point.
So, I think you could do a lot worse, but at the end of the day, those guys are still loaded. Obviously with Chubb, and Hunt in the backfield, and they signed Amari Cooper, and they still have some talent out there. Defense. I guess Myles Garrett is a stud. Jadeveon Clowney, re-signing with them, which I don't know if he's as good as he used to be, but I think he fits pretty well in their system. Denzel Ward, you got the young young corner out there. So you got some young pieces. I think if Deshaun Watson's playing all 11 games, that's a different story. And suddenly they're rocketing to near the top of that division and competing with, I think, the Bengals and the Ravens. Jacoby Brissett, I think, keeps them around. I think he keeps them, near, but I just don't know if he's going to have enough to keep them in that top 2 spot. I think it's the Bengals or Ravens division to win. Deshaun's going to come in late and make a late push, but I don't think they'll be close enough to make it worth it in the end. All
right, so we'll leave them as not a chance, just falling too far behind in a tough division after 11 games without your starting quarterback, even though we both are highly on Jacoby Brissett to at least be functional. Now into the AFC East. So we got, I don't know if we really need to talk that much about the Bills. I think everyone is pretty high on the Bills this year. I think Vegas has them as the favorites, I believe, to win the whole thing. Finishing 11-6 last year, adding Von Miller. And in my personal opinion, one of the probably not talked about as much signings in the offseason, Jamison Crowder. And I love that for the Buffalo Bills to pair with long threats, Stephon Diggs, get a good veteran kind of slot receiver in Jamison Crowder, I think is going to help a lot. Obviously, adding Von Miller is, he's Von Miller. So, and you were 11-6 last year. So I don't know that we have any problem with saying that the Bills will be contenders this year. Yeah. All right. The Patriots, I will give that one to you here. 10-7, losing Josh McDaniels in the offseason, going to be head coach of the Oakland Raiders, but finished 10-7 last year. Got absolutely thumped by Buffalo in the playoffs, allowing 7 straight touchdowns to the Bills. So do you think the Patriots, obviously you gave that same respect to Mike Tomlin for Pittsburgh and not having a losing season, but not necessarily being good enough to contend in the division. Do you give the Patriots with Bill Belichick that same kind of respect or even more respect? Are they contenders this year?
I mean, it's Bill Belichick. You always got to give a Patriots team with him at the helm respect. I don't know. I feel like it's the Patriots as a whole. It seems to be the last 2 years has been, and maybe this is wrong, but maybe one of the I guess less talented squads that he's had in his career. Mac Jones, I don't know what to make of him. I think he had an okay rookie year, but I just don't know if he showed that he was going to be an elite quarterback. And then watching him in some off-season, preseason stuff wasn't super impressive. I don't know if you saw the interception he had against I think it was the Raiders, where he threw it into about 6 different guys.
Hey, gotta give it a chance, see what happens.
I don't even think he gave that close to a chance. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of him. I think Bill Belichick's always going to have his teams ready to go. You can never count them out. They're never going to be, I don't think, a horrible team. But in that division, it's outside of the Jets, I think still a tough division. I'm not sure I'm putting them in the
in contenders
category. Yeah.
All right. So if you're putting the Patriots there as not a chance, I don't know that we give the Jets and the Dolphins much of a chance either. Dolphins signing Tyreek Hill, which is a great pickup. Tua and all of the jokes that he can't throw at 70 yards seems to be doing quite well in preseason and getting the ball down the field. He looks super beefy. But it'll be interesting to see how that partnership grows over time. And the Jets are the Jets. I don't know what to say about the Jets. Starting Joe Flacco this for opening week, it seems like they were 4-13 last year. Any shout out for the Jets or the Dolphins, or are we bunking these into not a chance?
I think you can bunk the Jets and not a chance pretty easily. I just don't see there's just not much of a threat there. The Dolphins, I don't know. I actually might put them in the contenders category.
Interesting.
I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in Tua necessarily. I still think he's got his limitations, but I think at the end of the day, they've got a ton of talent on both sides. And I think I wouldn't rule him out quite yet.
All right.
With Tua at the helm again, I think I'm not sure he's going to be the guy for forever, but I think when you got like the speed of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill out there, Mike Gesicki, who's essentially another receiver. They've got talent out there. They've got a stable of running backs. And if Tua can just kind of throw the ball and dump it off to Tyreek and get those guys the ball in open field, like let them fly, they've got a chance. I mean, they've got some talent. So I think I put the Dolphins in the contenders category.
All right, there you go. Here we go. The webcast predicting the Dolphins to contend with the Bills here in the upcoming season, a division that I feel like is probably the most difficult to predict. Even 1 through 4 is this next one, the AFC North. I will start off with this for you, okay? Which team had the best offseason when you look at the people that they are bringing in only? You have the Raiders, who bring in Josh McDaniels and Devontae Adams. You got the Chargers with that great offense, now bringing in J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack on the defensive side of the ball. The Broncos obviously adding Russell Wilson and everything that he's going to bring to the franchise. And then you got Kansas City, who is bringing in, I think, another wide receiver that isn't as talked about as making a good move is Juju Smith-Schuster. I love that he is now a part of Kansas City. I think he brings a threat that is different than Tyreek Hill, but someone who can be that, maybe 15 to 20 yard throw on the sideline when they need it that they may not have had, and give a little, break from Travis Kelce down the middle. So who had the best offseason for you out of those 4?
That's a tough question. That's all of them had, obviously those are 3, I would say Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos, I think had probably, in my opinion, the biggest additions as far as names go. As far as what I think is going to make the biggest difference overall, I think I got to go with the Broncos with Russell Wilson. I think the Chargers had the splash with J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack, which is huge for the defense, but I think the quarterback or the Broncos are one of those teams that I think can truly say in the last couple of years that they were a quarterback away. They've got a solid receiving core. They've got a solid defense. They've got like some really good pieces, and I think Russell Wilson just basically elevates them to contender status, to where it's like, hey, we're, maybe we haven't been that team for the last couple of years, but I think Russell Wilson is just that good, and kind of that leadership that he brings and the skill that he brings, along with especially those receivers. I would look out for the Broncos for sure.
All right, now I'm going to make you pick one slot open here for the contenders category from the AFC. From the AFC West out here, we got 3 teams left: Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Raiders. 2 are going to be in not a chance, and 1 is going to be in contenders. So who are the contending team with the Broncos to win the AFC West this year?
I still think this is an impossible question. I think all those, still all those teams. You got, just talent everywhere. Best coach in that division is still Andy Reid, in my opinion, and obviously he brings. But I think if I'm a betting man and I'm making my predictions, I think it's the Chargers. I think it's the Chargers that are the other contender in that division. I think the Raiders would be my final choice. I think that Devontae Adams is a huge get, but I still have concerns about their defense. Some of the O-line decisions that they've had over the last couple years as well. Just released Alex Leatherwood too, so that was a tough one. First round pick from last year, so I still have concerns over them. Kansas City, I think they're going to really kind of hate losing Tyreek Hill. I think Travis Kelce is still a beast, and Mahomes is still Mahomes, so they're going to definitely find a way, and they're not going to be bad by any means, but I think out of that division, I'm taking the Chargers and the Broncos.
All right. I wish Doug was here to defend his team, the Kansas City Chiefs. He gave me his predictions, even though he couldn't make it for today's show. He had the Chiefs and the Chargers contending this year for the AFC North. So he's high on the Chargers, just like you are. I am as well. I think adding 2 ginormous defensive pieces like that just take that team to a whole nother level. Kansas City do have more of a plus or minus going on. I think that these 3 teams, Denver, the Chargers, and the Chiefs, can all have 10+ win seasons and really, vibe for it. But we can only pick one winner for the division, and that will be between the Broncos and the Chargers. So we will move both the Chiefs and the Raiders into not a chance to win their division this year. And that completes the AFC side. So now we will move through the NFC side, starting with this division has either a new head coach or a new starting quarterback on every single team. The Atlanta Falcons are, I don't even know what to make of the Atlanta Falcons, to be honest with you. Lose Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley suspended for the entire season for gambling on the NFL. They finished 7-10 last year. I feel sorry for Kyle Pitts. I mean, that guy can be a generational talent, but it just seems like tight ends in Atlanta do not make the playoffs or win playoff games. So I'm going to have to put them in not a chance for this division. Tom Brady having a new head coach. Todd Bowles getting promoted from defensive coordinator up to head coach as Arians leaves. They've had a couple O-line injuries to start this preseason, especially in the middle of the interior of the O-line. They still bring back a lot of talent. Chris Godwin, though, is out as well for a little while. Gronk retired. Do you think the defending NFC South champions will be a contender again with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I mean, this is I feel like this is going into this season. This is one of the tougher off seasons they've had. They lost a lot of O linemen to injury and to some trades and free agency, stuff like that. So Tom's going to be, I think, in a little bit of trouble. I think especially the interior side of that line, which is Tom Brady loves that to be protected. You get interior pressure on Tom Brady, he tends to struggle a little bit. But I think at the same time, it's still Tom Brady. And I think at the end of the day, there's been plenty of years where everything seems to be kind of heading the direction of, all right, this has got to be it for Tom Brady. He can't make it happen this year. It's either lack of talent or whatever the case is. And he still proves us wrong. Still got a lot of weapons. I mean, he's still got Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's going to be out for maybe a little bit of time, but he'll be back. I think Russell Gage is an underrated signing for them. they've still got they still have talent on defense, a young, still talented defense. So, I'm not counting the Buccaneers out. I don't, even with the lineman issues, which are legitimate, you can't count out Tom Brady, and you can't count out that defense either.
All right. I totally agree with that. I mean, you can't bet against Tom Brady ever. So he's going to be, there or thereabout, especially in this kind of division. Maybe if this was the AFC West, maybe he'd have more difficulty, but it is not.
Sure.
But a team that I think they will have problems with. And I am probably higher on this team than probably anyone else, but I just want to give you some facts. Okay. I just want to present my case and see what you think about it. Okay. So obviously Sean Payton not there anymore. However, Jameis Winston, okay, I get it. Florida State, that whole video of him stealing the crab legs at Florida State, still won a national title. Okay. Seems like through controversy, the dude just throws touchdowns. Last year, 7 games before he got injured for the rest of the season, he went 5-2, including 14 completed passes against the Green Bay Packers with 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns with 14 completed passes. I know he throws a lot of interceptions. Okay, I get it. But he went 5-2, beating Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in that stretch. You bring Michael Thomas back this year after his ankle injury. Is he going to be the same? We'll have to wait and see. Chris Olave adds a great threat, also down the sideline. And you bring in Jarvis Landry, and you got a great, over the middle slot receiver to add to Alvin Kamara, who is still Alvin Kamara. I mean, come on. They could hit you. They could score in a blink of an eye, in my opinion. The defense is still solid, even with Jenkins retiring. And, I mean, you got Cam Jordan. What more do you really need there? They went 9-8 last year. So they started off 5-2 and finished 9-8. Winston comes back. You get these offensive weapons added into the picture. I know it's a new head coach in Dennis Allen, but I am very high on the Saints this year. I am thinking that they're contenders. I even think that they probably will win this division if Tampa Bay has injury concerns, especially on the O-line. What are your thoughts on the Saints?
Well, I gotta say, those are my kind of facts. First off,
I
love me some Jameis Winston. Mr. 30 for 30. I got no problem with Jameis Winston. That's the most entertaining man in football, in my opinion. And I agree. He had, for what he did when they started out, was pretty impressive. What they did to Green Bay, especially week 1, was pretty wild. Week 1 sometimes can be a little bit of a liar sometimes, but still, that was pretty impressive. When he went down, I was very sad.
Yeah,
I love watching that man play football. And like you said, Michael Thomas is coming back. Chris Olave is, I think, going to be an absolute stud. They're built well on the offensive line and defensive line. I don't think they have a ton of glaring holes either. Especially in this division, especially if Tampa Bay does, falter a little bit, I don't see why the Saints can't come in and make a statement. And I don't see why Jameis Winston wouldn't be the one leading that charge. And, who knows, maybe he has another, 5,000 yard plus, 30 touchdown plus season. And
book it.
The boys get it done.
5K, Jameis Winston plays 16 games, 5K. 16 games, 5K.
I'm all about it. I'm all aboard
book
the Saints
it.
with you.
All right.
Let's book that for sure.
Carolina Panthers, they got Sam Darnold. Not good enough. So what do? They trade, I think, a 5th or 6th round pick. Bring in Baker Mayfield, who has a bone to pick with the Browns, taking them to their first playoff win in, so long. Ending the losing streak as well against the Jets on that Thursday night where they locked up all the beer. And they finally cut that cord, and the whole city got all those Bud Lights released in Cleveland. Now he goes to Carolina with Christian McCaffrey hopefully being healthy and back in form. Do you see Carolina contending in this division with Tampa Bay and the Saints?
I think they're close. I think I do believe that Baker's going to have a bit of a resurgence in Carolina. I think he was not extremely healthy last year, which I think I'll give him credit for. I'm not the biggest Baker fan by any means. I don't think that he's necessarily elite by any means, but I think
he's the number one pick. The number one pick.
He was, but I mean, we've seen plenty of number one picks who don't get it done. And
I know.
I will say, I think he gets a little bit back on track this year. I think he's got a bone to pick, like you said, with Cleveland. I think week one, I'm interested to see that game, see how that goes. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's ready to quote unquote prove the doubters wrong. As a former number one overall pick,
For sure.
which he should be able to meet expectations, but I don't see Carolina making that move this year. I think McCaffrey has a problem staying healthy. They've got a couple of weapons, here and there. I do like some of their young guys on defense, but at the end of the day, I just don't know if they've got what it takes to unseat, famous Jameis and the Buccaneers with Tom Brady.
Famous Jameis. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Baker. When Cleveland, two top 3 picks, and they use it, or 2 top 4 picks in that draft, I believe it was, and using that first one on Baker Mayfield, especially as a Ohio State alum and a Browns fan here, I just was so upset. I was so mad. I'm not going to lie. So mad. I don't know why you're playing in cold weather in this division. And you have Baker Mayfield, who likes to run around. I mean, we saw that with Johnny Manziel and everything like that, versus Josh Allen, who's tall, strong, can rip the ball in cold weather and wind right off the lake there. I was mad. Anyway, I'm still bitter, as you can see. Now let's move to another Ohio State quarterback in Chicago, Justin Fields, in entering his second year. Obviously, a lot of change there in Chicago over recent years. Do you think that this Justin Fields can take a step up, kind of like we expect with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and kind of make the Bears contenders in the AFC North? Or are you putting them as still too early and not a chance?
Yeah, it's still too early. I like Justin Fields. Being from Ohio State, that's always cool to see. But he's got no one to throw to. He's got no protection on the O-line. They didn't do anything to scheme around him last year. He's still young. I don't think he has what it takes to elevate above all of that. I don't think he's got enough pieces right now. So I just don't see it happening in Chicago. He's got probably 2 more years before they're relevant in the NFC North.
All right. A team that's been consistently relevant in the AFC North. Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs. He loses probably his best receiver that he's ever had, which is definitely saying a lot with the talent that he's been used to in Green Bay. Allen Lazard now becomes the number 1 in Green Bay. They finished 13-4 last year. But in 3 years with Coach LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, they've gone 7-0 in games that Devontae Adams hasn't been playing in. You have A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones there in the backfield, 1-2 punch. Both can go out into the flat and catch those little drop passes. I still think the offense is going to be there. Offensive line is going to be better. I see them as probably the favorites and definitely contenders for the NFC North here. The other team that many people are super excited about is Minnesota, finishing 8-9 last year, but bringing in Kevin O'Connell from the Rams to be the head coach. He was, part of the mastermind behind Cooper Kupp's ridiculous season last year, career highs in everything. Stafford obviously coming over from Detroit and, obviously being in a better situation and system, but still having his career year and ending up being the 9th total offense. And some people may argue that Minnesota might have even better weapons than the Rams do in those skill positions when you look at Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson as a trio. Are you thinking that Minnesota is going to take that step up, make up the difference of those 5 games from last year, and be a contender with Green Bay in this division?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the other contender in the NFC North. Like you said, I think Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, who is, already only 2 years in, he's one of the best receivers in the league. I think, I don't know. I mean, their defense in Minnesota has always been, kind of solid. I think everybody puts the blame on Kirk Cousins and just saying that, he's got to figure it out and win a primetime game, which, again, he's got the tools to do it. And I think with that 3-headed monster that he's got with him, it's certainly possible, especially in a weaker NFC North this year. I think this is probably a year where they can actually make some noise and get a chance to make a push for that NFC North crown.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And as you mentioned, in this weaker NFC North, and sadly, I feel like the Detroit Lions are still going to be there in the basement of the NFC. I love DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to be great. But I agree. I don't give them much of a chance in such a high flying offense division with that Green Bay and Minnesota have. Now, one of my favorite divisions to talk about because it always makes no sense every single year. I have a trivia question about the NFC East that I have for you. Okay. And everyone, if you have an answer, please put it in the comments of what you think. You can pause it while you give it a little bit of thought, and then give me your thoughts in the comments. Which team was the last team, year and team, to win the NFC East back to back? Which team and what year did they do it in?
My goodness. That is a tough question. I know I've seen the winners over the last however many years, and it's just flip flops every single year. Gosh, the last repeat winner in the NFC. My guess would be the Giants. I don't know why I say that, but my guess it would be somewhere in that Eli Manning kind of era.
Right. Totally would think that winning the division 2011, Eli, two Super Bowls in that time period, but no, it was not. The last time that this happened was when Andy Reid was the head coach of the Eagles, and they had talent out the wazoo on defense, on offense, on everywhere, and they went to the Super Bowl 2004. Last time that anyone in the division was a back-to-back division winner. So therefore, the kiss of death is on the Cowboys. I don't even know if we need to put them in contenders. They can't possibly contend based on that statistic. So no, I'm just joking. But what are your thoughts overall on the Cowboys this year? Mike McCarthy still the coach. Obviously, last year some questions with some time management in some games. They lose Amari Cooper. Tony Pollard looks like he's gaining a little bit more of a role, which is a good thing because he is a great second back. But also, you might be losing the greatness that was Zeke to start his first 4 seasons in the league. Do you think that they will be contenders right there in the NFC East this year?
Well, I mean, based off the NFC East, I feel like you can make an argument for anyone to be a contender every single year. But with the Cowboys,
win 7 games.
Yeah, exactly. Win 7 games and you got a chance. I just feel like, I don't know, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They are always going to get the preseason hype. They're always going to have those weapons on offense. They're always going to be that favorite, that flashy, pick to say, hey, you know what, this is the year they figure it out. Usually only to let their fans down. Even if they make the playoffs, they usually find a way to do that. So, yes, I think they're a contender only because I'm not a believer in 2 other teams in this division. But they've got their concerns. I mean, I like Dak as a quarterback. I like CeeDee Lamb. I think he's one of the best young receivers in the league. I think Michael Gallup is an underrated receiver who just signed that extension this year, this offseason. Yep. So coming off an ACL tear, so that's tough. But I think he'll be good. The O line is what used to be a staple for the Cowboys is now kind of a weak point. So that's kind of concerning. I think. Trayvon Diggs, I think obviously the All-Pro year last year, not sure that I'm sold on him necessarily as one of the best corners. I think he gets beat a lot. Certainly gets a lot of interceptions because he's aggressive, but I think he gets beat a lot. So they still have some weak points on the defense for sure. Michael Parsons is a stud. I think he's going to be a 10-year, 10+ year starter in Dallas. So I think they got a good one there, but still concerns on the defense a little bit for me. And then O-line for sure is a concern, but I still put them in the contender category.
Yeah, you know what they say about quarterbacks, the greatest respect is to not have any targets. So that's the greatest respect you get as a corner. Getting a lot of interceptions. I don't know that I think he had 3 in 1 game or something like that. I don't know anyone's showing him that much respect. Even though he is definitely a good talent. I agree with you. Maybe not, top tier like your Darrelle Revises of the world, but The other team that I think will be actually winning the division personally, with the weapons that they brought in, they had a great draft. They bring in A.J. Brown from your beloved Tennessee Titans. Jalen Hurts, I think, just offers a good, not as great arm talent, but offers that dual threat, a big body that can pick you up a couple yards. The running game's always going to be there or thereabout. And so I have the Eagles as contending in this division with the Cowboys, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on the Eagles this year?
Yep, I'm the same as you. I mean, they had a really good draft. I think one of the best drafts out of in the NFL last year, or this past offseason. Yeah, I think they built that team well. They added AJ Brown, which sad to see him go, but they've got Devontae Smith out there as well. So they got some weapons to play with. Jalen Hurts, not completely sold on him quite yet. I think he's gotten better since he got in the league and still has some stuff to prove. But I think with the weapons that he has now, he's got a chance to really say, okay, this is my chance to prove it. This is my team, and I'm going to take it from here. So they have the weapons, they have the potential, and they had a great draft, great offseason. Feel like they added everybody under the sun that they possibly could. So if you're in Philly, you got to be pretty excited about the Eagles this year.
Yeah, I agree. And we are in the same boat, I guess, here with the Commanders and the Giants. Just seem like they've been kind of sputtering around for the last couple of years, changing everything from quarterback to everything, and just can't really get it going. So we both have them in the not a chance category.
Yeah, anytime you're adding Carson Wentz to be your savior, I don't think your team's got much of a prayer. So. And then, the Giants are just, I don't know what to make of them at this point. I mean, Danny Dimes, I don't know about him. They got issues with Kenny Golladay, receiver. Saquon can't stay healthy. I don't know. I just don't see it. So they've got a long way to go. And the Commanders have some pieces, but the quarterback situation there is just not great, I don't think.
All right, and there you have it. We are into our last division, the daunting NFC West. Well, at least it's been that way for the last couple of years. You obviously have the Super Bowl champs in the Los Angeles Rams, losing, as every Super Bowl champion does, some of those pieces that are either going for a payday or looking for their own opportunities elsewhere to be kind of the main guy. Losing Von Miller, losing. Did OBJ re-sign with them as well? I don't
Not
remember
yet.
if he has yet. Okay, yeah, he hasn't. But obviously losing Kevin O'Connell and Von Miller there, two decent pieces in their offense, and then in Von Miller with the timely sacks that he had, especially against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. You think the Rams are going to have a Super Bowl hangover, or are they going to be able to keep it going and be contenders in a pretty difficult division?
I think they still got it. They still have what it takes, I think, to compete in the division. I mean, yeah, they did lose some guys, but they also added, I think, what a huge addition was Allen Robinson. I think he's been undervalued in Chicago for so many years with just not great quarterback play and I think poor coaching. But I think he's going to have a resurgence in LA. Pair him with Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson. I think some of those guys have a lot of talent. Matthew Stafford finally got his ring, which is awesome. And I think, again, he's also one of those undervalued quarterbacks for the first 10 plus years of his career. So no, I don't think maybe a slight setback, some of those defensive, pieces they're missing, but I think Sean McVay is going to, find a way to get those guys ready to go. And Stafford's still, I think one of those top tier quarterbacks. They got a lot of weapons. They got a great play caller, a great play designer in Sean McVay. So they're still contenders in my eyes.
Yeah, another team for me that's going to be contending, Arizona. I love what they did, adding, seems to follow the trend after the Bengals did it with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Just add the college receiver to your college quarterback. We'll see how that goes in the Raiders. Kyler Murray brings back Hollywood Brown to add, DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games, but, he's going to be coming back rested and healthy. You add a great deep threat like Hollywood Brown, finished 11-6 last year. I think Arizona will be there contending with the Rams this season. Now, San Francisco is such an interesting, off season. Will Jimmy G go? Will he not go? The whole kind of goodbye tour in the playoffs of when, it's going to be his last game, all for them to just bring him back. But now they can say that they're starting Trey Lance and kind of rely on that. What are your thoughts on the kind of QB situation? And do you think with that great defense and, Deebo Samuel sticking around, do you think San Francisco is going to be able to challenge both Arizona and the Rams? Or are you going to put them in not a chance to win the division?
I think I would put them. I'd give them a chance to win the division. I think last year they almost what they did in the playoffs. Found a way to sneak in there by beating the Rams, which I know that was I guess a bit of a big deal. But curious to see how the QB situation plays out with Garoppolo kind of hanging around. That's kind of a weird dynamic. They're saying, hey, Trey Lance, you got the keys, but we're going to kind of keep Garoppolo around for some reason to kind of enter you. But I know there was talks about Garoppolo being kind of an interesting guy in the offseason and kind of abandoning ship, not talking to anybody. So I'm not sure how that plays in the locker room, but clearly they're giving Trey Lance the keys to that offense, which I think is interesting, especially with Kyle Shanahan kind of being the coach that he is. I think on defense they're always going to be they got Nick Bosa, who's one of the best young stars in the league. They got who's the middle linebacker over there? I'm drawing a blank on him, but they've got obviously they got a lot of talent there on that team. And then you got Kittle on the offense, you got Debo, you got Brandon Ayuk, who I think is going to have a pretty big year. Elijah Mitchell in the backfield, and then the way that they scheme up those running plays, I think, especially when it gets late in the season, when you don't want to play those guys when it gets cold out, they start hitting you hard and they start running down, running downhill. So I can't count the Niners out. They're just always going to be sticking around, and they might make a late play toward the end of the season.
Yeah, that defense has always been great. And I agree. I think they'll definitely be able to ride that. We'll see how Trey Lance does to start the season, as we will. Geno Smith, who will be the starter in Seattle after they got rid of Russell Wilson, who's now in Denver. So I am interested to see Seattle because I think it's always a hard place to play at Seattle. And I think they can play a nice role as spoiler in this division, but in such a tough division, I'm going to give them with not a chance after losing their future Hall of Fame quarterback this year. Yep. All right. So there we go. We've done our first round. We have eliminated all the teams who we think do not have a single chance of winning their division. Yes, that includes you, the Kansas City Chiefs. And we will be moving on to the contenders. So I will give you the AFC South here with Tennessee and the Colts. I need a winner for this year as part of the webcast NFL predictions. Who will be the winner in 2022 for the AFC South?
Well, call me a homer, and maybe there's a little bit of bias there, but I have to go with Tennessee. I think again they've won it back to back. If the only argument is that the Colts added Matt Ryan, I don't know if that necessarily is the scariest thing. I think both teams have some similar weak points and some strong points as well. I think with a healthy Derrick Henry, a possible three-headed monster with him and Robert Woods, and we'll see how Treylon Burks comes along as a rookie. I think that defense for Tennessee is still going to be top 10 this year, even without Harold Landry. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
All right, and I will take the AFC North here between the Bengals and the Ravens, which I think is super interesting. The Ravens lost their last 6 games and still finished only 2 games back of the Bengals. The Bengals are obviously, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, another year together. The O-line, I think, is going to be better this year than it was last year. This one's a tough one for me. I just think that the Ravens in some of these bigger games, especially because the Bengals have a harder schedule too. You know what? I'm going to go with the Ravens slightly. My concern with the Ravens is that in tight games, especially late in the game, they're going to rely too much and be too one-dimensional, especially if J.K. Dobbins can't be too healthy or can't stay healthy throughout the whole year, and that might trip them up. But I can't get past the fact, yes, they lose Hollywood Brown, but they lost their last 6 games and only finished 2 games back of the Bengals. Lamar Jackson's healthy at all. They win at least 2 of those games and top the division. I think he's in a contract year, so I think that's going to give him a little bit of an edge. Bengals are going to have a harder schedule, finishing top of the division last year. And I just think that that's going to be it's going to be close, but I'm going to edge it with Baltimore. How close is this one going to be for you, Buffalo and the Dolphins, for the AFC East crown?
Well, I mean, I know I made a case for the Dolphins to be a contender, and I think they'll be better than they were last year, but I don't know how you can pick against the Bills. Josh Allen, all the talent they've got there. I think Dalvin Cook's little brother, James Cook, over there, and it's going to be kind of a cool addition as a rookie. They've got weapons. Their defense got better. They added Von Miller. Great coaching. They've got a lot of, I think, confidence going into this season. Bitter about the way it ended in Kansas City last year. So I think it's the Bills' division to lose, no question.
All right. Then I will take here the last division, AFC West. We have the Broncos and the Chargers contending. My whole lifetime growing up just north of San Diego when the Chargers were down there, so much hope, but never any fans. They moved to LA. Every time they first were in a soccer stadium, and it seemed like the opposing fans were always outnumbering the Chargers fans. Then they move in with the Rams, and of course the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl. So obviously they're not even the greatest team, especially with the Rams' history in LA. With the additions on defense, the Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, all that offensive power that they already have, I think this is their year, and I think they're going to take that next step and actually take the AFC West crown over Denver, Kansas City, and the Raiders. And that will give you the NFC South now between Tom Brady and the Saints, and Tom Brady and the Bucks, and Jameis Winston, famous Jameis, as you coined it, and the Saints. Who do you got?
Hey, I'm with you, Adam. I mean,
Saints, let's go.
You can't count against Tom Brady and the talent they have in Tampa Bay, but I think that's I don't know. I think that's a good little pick there. I like Jameis a lot. I like the weapons they've got. I like the stability they have on both offensive and defensive lines. I think the Bucks take a step back. Tom Brady's going to will them to whatever he's going to do this year, and they'll still have a fine year. But I like it real razor thin, real close margin. But I'm going to give the Saints the division this year.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. A very interesting one. Obviously, Green Bay is kind of viewed as losing attack power in the losses of Devontae Adams, and Minnesota is seen as gaining this attack power with Justin Jefferson entering another year, bringing in Kevin O'Connell with his Rams high flying offense. Who do you got winning the NFC North?
Closer this year with the Vikings, but I gotta go Green Bay. I mean, they still have Aaron Rodgers. The MVP could go for what, three in a row at this point. Who knows how many he's got now? And they lost Devontae Adams, but like you said, even without him, they still win games. I think Aaron Rodgers has the best defense that he's played with in his career in Green Bay right now, with weapons they have over there. So I think they big loss, but. I think they got some promising young rookies who are going to come in. Aaron's going to demand a lot of them. I love Alan Lazard. Big fan of him. I think he's underrated a little bit. And Robert Tonyan at tight end as well. And then A.J. Dillon and
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. I think that's one of the best duos in the league too. So, gotta go Green Bay.
Yeah. I could see it. Will he make it 3 MVPs in a row? Mr. Aaron Rodgers, we will have to wait and see. But we know that the Cowboys, like every other team since 2004, will not make it 2 in a row, and the Eagles will be the new NFC East champions. I think, I'm not predicting that they will be a contender for a top seed in the NFC, but I think that they will have enough to beat the Cowboys, who I predict will have a little bit of a stutter somewhere in the season. And I think the Eagles will be able to get better as the season goes on and capitalize on that. And last but not least, the last division winner here, I give to you the NFC West between the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Niners. Who do you got topping this division?
I don't know. I feel like this is one of those ones you try to overthink too much.
Yeah.
I think it's going to end up being between the Rams and the Niners. I think in the end, something about the Cardinals, I can't get, like, they're definitely a good team, but I just can't get behind them winning the division.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm going to keep it simple. I think the Rams had losses, but they also had some key additions. Close, but I got to go with the Rams.
All right. So there we are. The webcast predictions for the upcoming NFL season. We got the Titans, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chargers, the Saints, the Packers, the Eagles, and the defending champion Rams, all topping their division this year. And we will be doing our playoff predictions once the whole regular season shakes out. And we have more of a structure there in January. But Ben, thank you very much for joining the show tonight and giving our predictions. You don't even actually need to watch the upcoming NFL season that starts this Thursday because we already have all the division winners. We can just skip straight to January and worry about the playoffs once they come. Great to have you on the show. All of the artwork that you see behind me is done by Smiley Sports Artwork. Please check the description below to see her Instagram page for all of the sports artwork that she does. We are still live Wednesdays for everything Premier League and Champions League. We will recap Chelsea's terrible performance today against Dynamo Zagreb in the Champions League away from home in Croatia. Aubameyang starts, but man, what a mess that was. Haaland grabs 2. That's 25 in 20 UCL games for Erling Haaland. So join us tomorrow when we recap that and do the predictions for week 7 of the Premier League. Friday, we will recap the great college football weekend that we had. Utah goes down to Florida in the swamp. You got Georgia just looking like an NFL team. I really wish there was some relegation promotion going on. I love to see the Jets take on Georgia. I'm not going to lie. That 6'9" tight end that they got that can hurdle people. I mean, why is he playing college? I don't understand. Ohio State takes down Notre Dame, which was our marquee matchup of the weekend. Poor Pac-12, but we will recap all of that on Friday, 7 p.m. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Friday. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. We are very hopeful that you will be on much more podcasts to come, especially to break down the NFL. And for everyone, we will see you next time. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Adam.